Welcome to Behind the Badge, where we take a quick look at different RN job roles, what they do, who they care for, and how to get there. My name is Kati Kleber. I am an MSN-prepared nurse educator here to dig into all these different roles. Let's get started with the FNP role, which is a family nurse practitioner. So, a family nurse practitioner is trained in primary care. This means they're focused on long term relationship based care in an outpatient or clinic setting. They focus on treating patients across the lifespan. So, their education is going to teach them how to care for babies all the way to older adults. They manage chronic conditions, perform physicals, write prescriptions, provide preventative care. So the family part is key because it tells you that they are certified to treat any age group. Okay. So this is a nurse practitioner role, which means we need at minimum a master's degree with an APRN track, advanced practice registered nurse track, while the FNP role or certification is definitely a extremely common one. Not every nursing school is going to provide it. So you need to check to see, does this school offer at least an MSN with an FNP track. Also can pursue a doctorate degree. So while MSN at this time of the recording is a completely acceptable level of education for a nurse practitioner, keep in mind that educational winds are changing a bit to get into very high competitive jobs at research institutes, prestigious institutes. A lot of them are preferring their providers to have doctorates, which would be the doctorate of nurse practitioner. So you can pursue this FNP both at a master's level and at a doctorate level. Now, it isn't a nurse practitioner role. I want to differentiate that role from the other primary care nurse practitioner roles. So there's one called the adult gerontology primary care nurse practitioner. You will see that abbreviated as the AGP CNP. Okay. So it is a primary care role, but it excludes pediatrics. So you're taking care of adults and maybe later adolescents in a clinic setting, outpatient setting. So if this is a clinic that you're looking at working at and it sees kids, they would not hire you because if you have the AGP CNP, because you wouldn't be certified to do that. With your FNP, though, you can. So this is also different from the PNP, the pediatric nurse practitioner. That is someone who's specialized to treat teens and children, but cannot treat adults. And then finally, the other outpatient nurse practitioner role is the women's health NP. So that's someone who's working on like reproductive and women's health, like issues that affect women specifically. But it's not like you're going to be managing chronic hypertension for a 70-year-old male. Like that's not a something that would be within a women's health NP scope of practice. So why does this matter? These different nurse practitioner tracks, they determine your legal scope of practice. So you really, before you start your program, have to know which one you want to do, okay, and pursue that. So let me give you a powerful quote from someone who does have that adult gerontology primary care nurse practitioner. Her name is Gina McGee. She said, I got my adult gero primary care degree, and I can't tell you how many times I wish I had done FNP or adult acute care. My logic was that I did not want to work with kids, but I didn't realize how limiting that could be. It excludes roles like urgent care and most primary care offices. So many jobs wouldn't even consider me in the off chance that a child might need to be seen. So I thought that was very interesting to consider that perspective. Um, so this is a limitation that you do need to consider, okay? But let's say you do the FNP, degree path and then decide, am I stuck with that? Well, here's some other options. That is the FNP only route. You can go for that. You can start in primary care, and you want the flexibility of treating patients across the lifespan. It's definitely the most versatile primary care option. But if you want even more flexibility, and want to have the ability to care for patients in both the inpatient, so hospital acute care setting, and the outpatient clinic setting, there is something called a dual track program. So this dual track program in a nurse practitioner school, both at MSN and DNP level, um, you earn 2 certifications at once. Now, pause here. I probably should have said this earlier. I'm using the word certification for a nurse practitioner. Okay. This is very different than, say, the CCRN, the MS, um, the certification for the bedside nurse where you work in the hospital for 2 years and you can take this specialty certification board exam. That is one kind of certification. This is a completely different kind. You have to pursue this educational pathway, which often takes at least 2 years. Graduate level, you're taking a massive board examination, which is comparable to the NCLEX. So this is like CCRN on steroids with more pressure because it's after you're paying a whole bunch of money for school. So I just want to keep that in mind. Okay. Let's talk dual track programs. So you can pursue 2 certifications at once in this. So you could be looking towards doing your family nurse practitioner program as well as your adult gerontology acute care um, nurse practitioner program. Or there are some that also do uh, FNP, family nurse practitioner, along with the psych mental health certification. So you'll be able, when you graduate, you'd be able to legally and confidently work in both primary care and hospital acute care or psych with primary care. It depends on the combo, but those are the 2 most common. And I have a quote here from a nurse practitioner who now has her doctorate and her MBA and all these other things, which are phenomenal. Nicole Riccoboni, she is a phenomenal nurse, Nurse Nicole on various social media handles. She shares a lot about her educational journey. So I wanted to share, I asked her personally, hey, tell me more about your degree pathway. So this is what she said. I got both the acute care gerontology and family nurse practitioner certifications. So that one I just mentioned. I wanted as many options as possible in terms of working environments. It was hard to work on, but worth it. I get to work in inpatient and outpatient settings and decide what population I want to care for. I currently work in critical care and outpatient cardiology. Wow, what a combo, guys. Both require very different mindsets and approaches, and doing the dual route really prepared me to work in both fields. Finding my own preceptors was a big hurdle, but it definitely worked out in the end. So that's her quote. Um, and as you will hear in my Behind the Badge series, a lot of these nurse practitioner, clinically based, graduate level positions, finding preceptors is the largest hurdle that everybody mentions. Anyway, so if you're someone who loves variety or just is not totally sure what setting you want to land in, or maybe you're going to be moving and maybe you're married to somebody who moves a lot due to their job and you want a lot of versatility, doing a dual route gives you a lot of clinical freedom, but it is a heavier lift, more clinical hours, more coursework, and often not help with finding preceptors. Although the no preceptor help in finding them is pretty common with all of the certifications. But what if you do your FNP first only and then later want more options? Well, that's a valid option too. You're not like stuck. So that's what someone named John Russell did. He's a nurse practitioner I am very familiar with. We've worked together in various capacities. He now has his doctorate. And he started out with an FNP, took a job though in cardio thoracic surgery, and quickly realized that the FNP training did not prepare him adequately for hospital medicine. So here's a quote from him. He said he had a sharp learning curve. Eventually, I went back to get my adult gerontology acute care nurse practitioner certification since it became clear that my FNP training did not cover inpatient care, but it wasn't supposed to anyway. Since 2020, many employers won't even consider FNPs for hospital-based roles due to scope concerns. He later founded a great nursing education, nurse practitioner education website called Skills on Point. He has so many good nurse practitioner um, educational courses, kind of like the ones that I have on Fresh RN for just new graduate nurses. He does it at the NP level. It's phenomenal. So I want you to recap. FNP gives you the widest primary care scope practice. Dual certification gives you more clinical freedom, but it is a lot more work up front. A postmaster certification can help you pivot later, but you will find a steep learning curve likely, and you'll have to go back to school to do that. But important to know that just if you go get that FNP and you want to do more later, you don't have to completely start all over. You can just get that specific certification. So, what can't you do with the FNP certification alone? So, you can't work in hospital based acute care units like the ICU or ER unless the facility makes an exception. That used to be pretty common. It's not so common anymore. Lots of people are going back for their nurse practitioner degree. This is a job role that is very rewarding, but there can be a degree of um, role saturation, market saturation, where it makes it difficult to get the job. So these hospitals can be more selective about who they hire. So that's why we're turning into more, okay, well, if you don't have the specialty certification for acute care, then we're not going to consider you for this because there's 50 other people who have applied that do have that. Um, if you have your FNP, you will not be managing things like acute care post-op patients or ventilated patients unless you have that dual acute care adult gerontology certification. And remember, you can't legally practice outside of your scope. So if you're not certified to treat kids or work inpatient, you're not covered to do so. So, my final thoughts: if you're drawn to outpatient primary care and want the flexibility to treat all ages, the FNP is very versatile. It allows for the largest scope of outpatient practice. If you want to, if you definitely you want some inpatient care though, or the ability to work in high acuity settings, you can do that dual certification path. And if you're still figuring it out, but know you want to do the nurse practitioner role, the FNP does really give you a great foundation because you're getting the full lifespan education. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. If this episode gave you some clarity, let me know. I'm testing out this like quick hitter format with Behind the Badge series and explaining different roles. I'd love to hear if it's helpful. And if there's another role you want me to break down, please do shoot me a message. If you're watching this on YouTube, please comment below with if you have any questions or have done FNP, considering it, have some wisdom to share with people who are considering that role, and anything that you might want me to cover. All right. Thanks, nurses, and stay fresh.